Alright, I should be recording. I don't really have any plans for this, but maybe this will start something new for me. And that will be reviewing movies, or at least kind of. Um, I'm actually a huge movie watcher. I say I'm actually. No one knows who I am. My name is. No one is gonna watch this anyways. My name is Keaton Britz. That is my full legal name. And I am just a kid who, I mean, clearly I like history by this U4 gameplay, but I watch a movie a night almost religiously. Um, and I thought maybe I can just spread my love of movies by creating a little video here. So tonight I watched, I believe it's 1984. Yeah, we're gonna check that. Here's all my tabs. Nothing heinous in here, hopefully. Let's just open up this Duolingo. 1986. My apologies. Platoon here. The version I watched was definitely longer than 2 hours. I believe it was about 150 minutes. It won 4 Oscars. So, I mean, let's check these out. Let's see if I agree with these. So, I guess in short, this was a movie about a platoon. I mean, obviously, a group of soldiers in the Vietnam War. And I mean, I would say generally, at least the theme that I got out of it was um, kind of an anti-American perspective by showing the fact that instead of needing to fight uh, innocent Vietnamese people, in reality, the true evil people, the true criminals were actually the Americans, and the infighting that they had led to deaths and casualties that were unnecessary on both sides. Um, and so here, one best picture. I don't know about like the whole year, so I don't know if I agree with that. Best director, I think that's definitely something to go for. Best sound, I can totally see that, and best film editing, I can totally see that as well. Those are definitely things I think were very strong in this film. So right off the rip, like the film itself, like just like the actual film, like not anything in the film, just like I don't know why I can't speak. I thought it was gorgeous. I thought it was like the camera moved wonderfully. I mean, it was nothing. It was nothing crazy, right? Like I wasn't watching Requiem for a Dream or any movie by Yorgos Lanthimos. Like it wasn't anything nuts. It was just good standard camera, and I think it was great. The sets I thought were great. I mean, like I really felt like I was there with everyone, and some of the scenes were beautiful too, especially in that first act when a lot of the time they're like overlooking a valley. And it's really just a gorgeous area. I don't know if it was actually filmed in Vietnam or not, but it really, really was nice. Um, and then I think I'll go to the film editing. Like I'm not an expert on film editing or anything. I really can't say for certain, but I thought it was it and the cinematography was good enough for like what we were given. Um, I didn't see anything outrageously bad. That is, like I wasn't watching The Room or anything. But I also wasn't watching like Ron levels of work here, like Seven Samurai. Like it wasn't a Kurosawa film. Um, but it's definitely solid. It's definitely not a knock against the film. And then I think I'll go into what I think is the biggest strength of the film, which is its visceral gore, its violence, and how it depicts that. And I think to emphasize that, I would say what I think is the strongest scene in, or the strongest set of scenes in the entirety of Platoon is when the platoon kind of raids this very small Vietnamese village, and they found some illegal guns, and they have a lot of rice, and they are interrogating this old man, to try to see if he's part of the NVA, which I think stands for the Northern Vietnamese Army, but I'm really not sure. Um, and I think it was definitely the strongest scene because I think it set the framework and the ties for what the rest of the movie was about thematically, and also just in its level of brutality and heinous act. And it really felt awful to watch. Like, being a spectator felt disgusting in that part of the film, and that's why I think it worked so well and it was so strong. Um, and the reason I say it set up for the themes of the film is because, in that part of the movie, it kind of begins what the rest of the movie focuses on, which is uh, a struggle for power, um, between Elias and Barnes within the platoon, and how that reflects the U.S. fighting among itself in Vietnam. So it's an allegory for the entirety of the U.S. And the reason I think that this particular scene is so strong is because I think it sets the tone of of the allegory so well, um, and that's because they have a scuffle. So, um, wow, I believe it's Barnes. I can't believe I don't actually remember. I believe it's Barnes is interrogating like this old man. He's part of the NVA, and he like shoots his mother in the head because she comes over. She's like, why are you killing our farmers and destroying our rice? Like, we're just trying to live our lives. Then here you are invading our space. And I don't know. I guess Barnes just fucking snaps. He gets sick of the woman and shoots her in the forehead. Um, and it's truly vile. And along with that, another character who I cannot remember is, um, well, two of them. Three. Well, I think there's three in the hub, but two of them in specific antagonize a disabled man who probably got disabled during either a bombing or when he was part of the Viet Cong or the NVA, or I guess he could even be part of the Southern Army. Right, that's the whole point. It doesn't even matter to them. Like, they don't care, and they antagonize him. They make him jump around after they pull him out of his hiding spot, and they shoot at his feet, and then eventually they they just beat him to death with the butt of their gun off camera as we see the blood spatters go across, one of the soldiers' faces. And it's so visceral. It really is. It's so visceral, and it feels so gross to watch. And I think that's what makes it so powerful in a way, because you're sitting there embodying yourself as one of the other two characters, because I'm American, um, and you go like, how could I ever let this happen? Like, you know how could I ever do this? And it makes you realize how broken these characters are, in this story, how mentally disturbed they are after fighting this war and seeing their brothers get killed. He goes, are you the one? Well, what is it? Are you the one who killed Mandy? Are you the one who slit his throat? And that's how you know it's all retaliatory. That doesn't make any sense. Um, right? It's not in the nature of any of these men to act like this, except for maybe Barnes. I think that's what makes it so gruesome. But anyways, so like I was saying, I think that scene in particular really sets the groundwork for the rest of the movie. And I guess now I'll talk about the bad, and I think that's everything that comes after Elias dies. Now, I don't know exactly when Elias dies, but I think I don't know. I was gonna say it might be the beginning of Act 3, but I feel like Act 3 is kind of just a big shootout, so I don't really know. In my mind, the movie really gets separated into two acts, which is before Elias dies and after Elias dies. So Elias, um, is, okay, I gotta back up. Like I mentioned, there's a struggle within the platoon between Elias and Barnes, and if you ever seen Emperor's New Groove, or I guess any kind of media out there that's kind of about kids, Elias is kind of the good angel on Kronk's shoulder, and Barnes is the bad one. Oh, I mean, not to say that Elias is particularly a great man, but he's certainly better than Barnes in terms of a moralistic like viewpoint. Um, and I think the struggle between them, they each have about half the platoon, really really carries the film for, well, really the whole thing. And it's even touched upon in the last monologue by the main character when he's getting flown out on a helicopter, saying that he's almost a kid born of the two parents, which are Barnes and Elias. And I think it's very poignant, but I think it just doesn't hold a lot of weight because Elias dies like halfway through the film, and afterwards I feel like the plot really kind of untangles itself. Or, I mean, tangles itself. Like, I just don't think it has much to stand on after Elias dies, and I think it just doesn't it just doesn't perform like it was beforehand. So for instance, like I already said it, right? That scene with the village, but like afterwards, there aren't really any scenes like that. There aren't any scenes like on uh is it Taylor? Dude, I can't believe I forgot the main character's name. It's not really that important, and it's not said a lot. I think it's Taylor. Um, like on his first ambush, you know, it wasn't his fault. And he didn't actually sleep on his post. In fact, it wasn't his post anymore. But he still got the brunt of the blame, and people still died for it. And it kind of still was his fault. And it was brutal, and it was violent, and it was tense. And it showed the characters, and it showed how terrible this life was. And I just don't know if that's really brought through in the rest of the movie. I think it kind of coasts on what it's already built and finishes out its themes with a pretty good monologue at the end. After a huge action scene that probably blew most of its budget. Um, and so I think Platoon is a great watch, but I also think it was definitely a product of its time. And I think its rating reflects it. It has a very high rating here on IMDb, and an 8.1. There are very, very few movies with above an 8. I would say probably 200 or less. Um, which means that this would be considered one of the top 200 movies of all time, which that could be true. It really could be. But I just don't know if it's worthy of an 8.1. I'm trying to think of other movies that are rated lower than this. Obviously, the first one that comes to my mind is my favorite movie, The Lobster, is lower rated than this. I just don't know if that's true. I think it's, like I said, its rating is a product of its time because while I think Platoon is a great movie, I think its themes are a great war movie. I think its themes are boring and broad and overdone, and I think it's a worse version of Apocalypse Now in a lot of those ways. And not only that, I think really only half the movie is a truly worthwhile watch, and the other half is kind of boring. I mean, obviously it's not boring. I mean, it's action packed, it's heated, but I just don't know if it's as good of a watch really after Elias dies. Um, is obviously what I've been trying to get at, and I don't know if it deserves an 8.1. I think that first off, neophyte, great word by the way. Um, I just I just don't think this movie really has a reason to have an 8.1 rating, and I think a lot of the reason its rating is so high, cuz 8.1 is really high on IMDb, is because it's a movie that, shows the I'm going to use this word, like the brutality of Vietnam and how it was a mistake for the US to be there. Only like 10 years, I mean, in the 80s, like, were we even still in Vietnam? I mean, that shows how good my history is, I guess. Um, I guess I'm just trying to say that I think it's people that didn't want to be in Vietnam, like Americans that didn't want to be in Vietnam, reacting to the movie positively because it agreed with what they believe politically. Not that I'm saying we should have ever been in Vietnam. I'm just saying I think the very high rating is a reflection of that, and that I don't know if the film is truly worthy of a rating so high when it has an extremely basic story to tell. Yeah, that's kind of all I got, to be honest. Good movie. I guess I'll finish it off with a rating of my own. And I think we'll work with a 7.2. It's definitely good, like I said. The sound is great. The visuals are fantastic. The acting is good enough. The first act is wonderful, um, and the action scenes are truly intriguing. Um, like my eyes were definitely glued to the screen. I just don't know if it's a movie. I just don't know if it's a movie I'll walk away from and think about it for a long time. Right? I just don't know if it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be like the bridge on the River Kwai or Lawrence of Arabia. I know those are directed by the same guy, but like, I think they kind of fit similarly. Or I don't think it's. I don't think it's a Saving Private Ryan. I don't think it's an All's Quiet on the Western Front, the original. Um, or even better, right? Apocalypse Now. I think, like, why watch Platoon when you could watch Apocalypse Now? I guess is my final take. This movie exists and it's good, but Apocalypse Now is still out there. So, yeah. All right. First one done. See you guys.